Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. We are in the East Dulwich Tavern, but the weather in the UK has not been great recently, and it has flooded, well, near the room that we normally shoot in. It's actually just around the corner, so we are in the EDT, just around the corner as well. So, yeah, our condolences to the great establishment that is the East Dulwich Tavern. I'm sure it'll be back on its feet. Yeah, well, it still is running, right, but just that room is slightly out of action. And the tripwires keep on tripping, so we can't film in there. Anyway, there are bigger things to worry about. But good news is I've got Michael McCubbin and Henry Hill for your viewing pleasure, rather. And lads, it's been a busy week. There's been squad announcements, there's been Serie A, there's been Bundesliga, there's been Carabao Cup. How are you, McCubbs? You survived the craziness.
I'm good. I always find it very entertaining how you always give the full details of what's going on behind the scenes to the audience. Yeah, they do.
So we're in some sort of red room.
Yeah, I seem to remember you specifying that there was a wake going on in there. But I'm good, dudes. I'm good. Yeah, all this, the World Cup squad announcements have really obviously been dominating.
Absolutely.
What we're going to be speaking about today. It all kind of took me by surprise. For some reason, I thought it was the 13th that was the deadline, or that's when everyone was going to announce them. And then suddenly, in the last 24 hours, they've just been coming thick and fast.
They're just sheep, those international managers,
exactly,
aren't they?
It took me a little bit by surprise to begin with. That's kind of been, obviously there's been lots of other stuff. But yeah, I'm good, Diggs. Sorry, I'm rambling here, but yeah.
No, absolutely not. No rambles here. Henry, you okay?
Yeah, great. Good to see Tim Ream in the USA team.
Yes.
He's got in. Apparently Guardiola said to him after the game the other day that if he was 10 years younger, he'd be playing for him or something like that. And no, it is really well deserved, and it's a nice story, I think, at the age of 35 to muscle your way back in. And I think he's easily the best US centre half if you look at the players they're going to have lining up. And then good to see Tammy Abraham back on the score sheets for Rover against Sassuolo, but not enough
make a difference
to earn his position. But to be honest, as much as I like Abraham and I like
Callum Wilson,
the Roma side, I think Callum Wilson, when he's been fit, he's been brilliant for a long time now, and it's great to see him. I think that hard work really paying off. I'm not too fussed about him over Tony at all.
Fair enough. Yeah, Tim Ream will be joined by DeAndre Yedlin, former Sunderland player. And there will be two Sunderland players at the World Cup, actually. Bailey Wright of Australia at centre-back and Jerison Bennett. Although some people say Benete. I think it might be Benete. But anyway, Costa Rican. Really exciting young talent, so one to watch. Anyway, that's the final time you'll hear Sunderland today. But today we're going to talk about the most shocking omissions from every World Cup squad. Well, not every World Cup squad, but the major headlines. And we will, leave England firmly alone because there's plenty of England content coming out on Football Daily, but it has just dropped as we do this. And McCubb's Fikayo Tomori hasn't made it. Are you surprised? Are you not? What are your thoughts?
I'm not overly surprised. I mean, it's difficult. I think a lot of us would have had him even starting in this England team, wouldn't we? At least if we were to play a back four, which I think, again, a lot of England fans would want to do to kind of maximise that strength in midfield and attack. And Tomori has been one of the outstanding English centre-backs in world football over the last year or so. And I think, I kind of feel like English fans have kind of saw his performances against Chelsea, which were pretty, obviously got that red card. Generally, Milan were terrible defensively against Chelsea, but I don't think that's representative of his season. His defensive stats have actually looked pretty good, even compared to last year. I think Milan as a whole haven't been as defensively sound this term, and I think Tomori's probably had a few more mistakes in his game than he did before. But at the same time,
injuries in there as well.
Yeah. So I think I don't think there's really been that significant a drop off in his displays compared to last season, and I also don't think necessarily that his club form has had that much of a bearing on Southgate's thinking. I think he's never really fancied him that much. He likes to play a back three, which Tomori hasn't played in since
Chelsea,
since the days under, I guess, Lampard. Was Lampard playing a back three?
Yeah, he did at times. Yeah.
So I'm not overly surprised, but I think who's kind of got in ahead of him. I guess like Dyer and Maguire and White. I think White is hard to argue with form-wise. I think, someone like Maguire, I think, is obviously easier to argue about. So I think he can feel hard done by in that sense, but at the same time, it's like, players like Cody and Maguire, who aren't necessarily like ripping up trees at the moment, but are very trusted members of Southgate's squad, were always going to make it in, weren't they? Also, Tomori's got plenty of years ahead of him. Like, he will get into England squads in the future. Was he going to play even if he made the squad? Probably not. So I'm not overly surprised in that sense.
Yeah, that's the thing that I always think people struggle to sort of remember when this squad is announced, is that a lot of these players won't even feature for their nations. So I was looking back at Euro 2020, and we had a 26-man squad for that as well because of COVID. And only 21 players featured, and only 16 played more than 100 minutes. So even if Tomori had been picked, he's unlikely to be started by Southgate. Now, I probably would have. I potentially would start him or White as that left-sided centre-back in a back three. But it's just not going to happen under Southgate. Has he been unlucky? Yes. I'm sure he's maybe regretting not even going for Canada as his nationality, because they've obviously at the World Cup. There's a nice crop of young talent coming through there. But it's not happening for him. Henry, just quickly before we move on to other nations, Conor Gallagher in, Tony out, Abraham out, Jared Bowen out. Were there any other shocks for you?
Not really. I do think Ward-Prowse is a little bit unlucky, personally. I think he's been such a reliable figure for the England setup throughout sort of his career, be it youth level. I think he's actually played well at senior level moments that he's come in. So yeah, I do feel slightly sorry for him. I think Jared Bowen had his big opportunity against Hungary, and that was one of the worst England performances that we've ever seen. I don't think he's done enough this season to really, as Mikey kind of said there, a lot of it is kind of momentum and squad building, and a lot of these guys, Grealish, etc., they have been part of the squad for a long time, and I think you have to bear in mind the tournament starts so soon. Yeah. There is an element of familiarity that is necessary. He needs to be able to go, right, you guys, we've basically got a week to knock our heads together.
No friendlies.
No friendlies at all.
Not for England, don't you?
So I think you can't rush in, wait too many kind of wildcard bets who maybe haven't been used to that setup before. Maddison, the flip side of that is Maddison is in so much good form. He's in such good form at the moment. I know you guys disagree, but I think it makes sense to take him now because he's going to be able to hit the ground running. You can rely on him because you know that he's playing well at the moment. Whereas so that's like the other side of it, is if you're playing so well at the moment, you can slot straight in. I don't think he could overlook Maddison's form, especially with a 26-man squad. But yeah, I don't. In principle, I think the squad is fine. It's very Southgate.
I think the thing with Maddison is that the nature of the position that he plays in. It's like you can take Maddison, and if you need that something a little bit different. Even though they've got a lot of good quality on the bench, if there might be a time where you're like, let's get Maddison on and cause a bit of chaos or whatever. Whereas it's a little bit different when you're speaking about centre backs, where ideally you don't want to sub any centre backs during a game. Those kind of partnerships really do rely on a lot of historical kind of partnership and whatnot. That's why I think Stones and Maguire will basically make every single England squad, because they're a really good partnership, or at least they have been in the past, and Southgate kind of knows that. They've got a really deep understanding of each other's game. So in that sense, I think it's easier to put a wild card in there up front. Look back and when I know he didn't actually play, but Sven picked Walcott for 2006, didn't he? And again, I think with Conor Gallagher, I actually really like that one, because I do think Conor Gallagher as a backup for Mount, which I think he's probably been brought in as. I think that makes a lot more sense than James Ward-Prowse personally. But anyway, let's move on, because this isn't an England-oriented show.
It's definitely worth doing it, and we are known to get pretty obsessed with England squads as a nation. I feel like for the last 20 years, there's always been some debate whether it's can Rooney play with Owen, can Gerrard play with Lampard, whether Sterling should go, whether Grealish should go. We love getting obsessed. But anyway, let's move on, because there is another nation which I think is as obsessed with their squad, and that's Brazil. Yeah. And at Stuart A. Kirk says, have Bobby Firmino and Gabriel been a bit unlucky to miss out? Henry, what do you make of that?
A little bit, I do think a little bit. Firmino has those selfless qualities, which I think Tite likes as a coach. It's the reason that Richarlison plays a lot. Perhaps the rise of Richarlison is what's ultimately cost him his position, because Richarlison has got that kind of frenetic energy which he's looking for sometimes. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting selection of forward lines. Saw Cunha dropped, I'm not surprised by that. But yeah, Anthony, he's done really well. I think that vindicates his move to Manchester United in many ways, to sneak into the squad that way. Martinelli, I don't think you can overlook. He's another one I don't think will get many minutes. Pedro Eva, he's this wild card from Flamengo. It's great to see sort of a Brazilian,
just for experience.
Yes,
really.
I think so. Brazilian-based player in the side as well. So, yeah, I mean, looking at recent Tite sides, Brazilian sides, Firmino hasn't played much. So, so on that regard, like if you take him, I do think he has to play a little bit because he has been in such good form this season. So, I think it's just an indication that the squad's going in a different direction. I wouldn't be surprised if this is probably the last we see of Firmino, Firmino in an international setup, really. So yeah, but he's had a great season, 8 goals, 4 assists in 16 League and Champions League games, really stepped up when Liverpool have needed him most. But yeah, they've got so much talent in that forward line. I don't think it's going to be missed too much. Gabriel, more interesting. I mean, it's a really weird
They've got some good centre-backs.
They've got some good centre-backs. I think Marquinhos is always going to play. Thiago Silva's always super trusted. Militao's been brilliant for the last 18 months. So those 3 alone are fine. And then you've got Bremer as well coming in from Juventus, who's had quite a big rise. I thought Gabriel would maybe be on the plane at least, but we've seen a lot of sides stacking their defence with centre-halves. Tite's obviously gone in a different direction, which is fair enough. But yeah, the fullback position, that's probably more alarming. You put a tweet out, Danilo, Telles, Dani Alves. I didn't even know Dani Alves was still going.
He was in and then he got dropped and now he's back in. And Alex Telles and Danilo. But Danilo actually has been really good for Juve for a while. I think he's slightly gone under the radar, but it's, as you say, not great forward options. I mean, McCubbs, just quickly, your thoughts? Would you have picked Bremer or Gabriel?
I probably would have gone Gabriel just on current form, really. I know Bremer was great last year for Torino, but it's a weird one. I just think that obviously that this is a very. I think Brazil, whether they win the competition or not, I think will be the top scorers in Qatar. That forward line is just ridiculously stacked. And I think I was watching Tim Vickery was talking about it the other day. Actually, he was saying how not taking Firmino is a little bit of a risk because he's the only player who can kind of assume that kind of number 10 position. Like if they're to use that, and he was saying Neymar often takes up that kind of position for Brazil. But if Neymar were to get injured, and that is, definitely not out of the realms of possibility, his injury record at tournaments is pretty bad. Firmino would probably be the most natural fit there. So that's an interesting one, I think. As for the fullbacks, I think Brazil just are, going through a bit of a dark age in the fullback areas, aren't they? They can't really think of like a fullback that kind of springs to mind. But I might be wrong there.
Yeah.
But let me know in the comments below if it happened.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about this Brazil squad is even if Neymar does get injured, which I don't know why we're expecting him to, but even if that was to happen, there are players that have really stepped up in the last couple of years on the biggest stage, namely Vinicius Junior, Rafinha. His form has been on and off for Barcelona, but has actually played really well for Brazil when called upon. Richarlison's really emerged as a really leading man for that side as well. Rodrigo's having a really good season at Real Madrid. The depth is absolutely ridiculous. McCubbs, quickly before we move on to another nation, Sean15 Mackenzie says Joe Linton. Sean actually on his tweet suggested that Joe Linton should go over Fred, but Fred has actually been really good for Brazil. Yeah,
I think Fred's always been really reliable for Brazil. I think Joe Linton, again, it's a little bit like the Tomori situation. I think on form, he can feel hard done by for sure, but I think Fred has always been always been a mainstay there. I think I don't think you can not take him. I think Lucas Paqueta has played a lot in this Brazil team recently as well. They're like we were saying, very attack minded. I think often they'll play just Casemiro as the defensive mid and then Paqueta as his partner, and then that's basically it. And Paqueta like Joe Linton, an attack-minded midfielder, but one who is also, really hard-working off the ball as well. So, again, I just think there's just too much competition in that for those midfield spots.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to France. A lot of people have been slightly upset with some of the omissions. I actually don't think they're particularly controversial, to be honest. I mean, Sporendo said Moussa Diaby. Liam Wraith 22 said Marcus Thuram. Marcus Thuram has had a great season so far. Gone under the radar at Gladbach, I think, but hasn't been ultra consistent over the last couple of years, been very up and down. But yeah, he's been great. 9 goals and 3 assists in 14 Bundesliga games. But he does play more centrally. And you couldn't really argue for Mbappe, Benzema, Giroud or Griezmann to be dropped. And then on the wings, Moussa Diaby's competing with Christopher Nkunku, Kingsley Coman, Ousmane Dembele. Like, that is a ridiculously stacked lineup in terms of the wing spots. And Moussa Diaby's maybe suffered slightly from Leverkusen not really being that good this year. You know, their Champions League campaign was a little bit of a disappointment. He's got 7 goals and 3 assists in 20 League and Champions League games so far, but not probably been as good as last year when he got 32 goals and assists in all competitions as well. I don't think that's too shocking that they're left out. No. Henry's agreeing with me. Henry, let's move on to the fullback areas rather. DCMS_99 said Jonathan Klaus. Vasil Detalanara 8 said Fulham Mondi.
What did you stinking, man.
What did you make of this? Stinking. All right, McCubbs, you feel like you're ready to blow on this?
Yeah, I just think Jonathan Klaus, he's the best, like pretty much the best, most informed fullback in France. He was the best right back in France last season. He's been great for Marseille so far this year.
They don't really have any right backs.
They don't really have any right backs. I know, like, you know, he's been Deschamps been experimenting with a back 3 and wing backs as well. I think you were saying in the script that's going to come out this weekend that, you know, this probably puts that in the bin as a project.
I reckon.
But I think it's less so that they're missing out. It's just that I don't see where the alternatives are. I mean, Theo Hernandez obviously as a left back, I think that's, you know, he should be, you know, the starting left back. But Ferland Mendy is also quality. I think he's actually very underrated. Ferland Mendy always seems to take pelters at Madrid, even though I think he's absolutely fine there. And there's just a ton of centre-backs. There's just a ton of centre-backs. I understand Varane going, despite his, you know, his fitness issues. Yeah, I think they need Varane in that back line, even if he's not completely match fit. I just think they need him there. But, you know, Kimpembe, Konate, Koundé, Saliba, Upamecano, like they don't need all those centre-backs. They really don't need all those centre-backs. I don't get why. Yeah, I don't. And I think it's also I'm a bit sad for Klaus because this might be his only chance at a World Cup. He's quite a late bloomer. Is he like 28, 29 now? He only started playing in Ligue 1 a couple of years ago, and so I'm a little bit just a little bit put out because it just that felt like it was going to be a really nice story, like him going to the World Cup after the career that he's had. I don't know if you have any thoughts on it, Henry.
Henry, what do you think?
I completely agree with you. I think one of Upamecano or Konate potentially could have been dropped. I don't mind Koundé going there, but even Pavard's been known to play a bit at centre half if needs be for Bayern Munich. So I think it's to only have bought Pavard as a right back is frankly ridiculous. And I think there's enough experience running through that side that they could afford to have brought Jonathan Klaus along as well. So I am really surprised, but I'm massively intrigued to see how France do at this World Cup in principle. I
think it just shows that there is, you know, once again, you know, and it's fine, you know, this is tournament football, that there is quite a conservative approach to this. Whoever's playing at right back is not going to be particularly attacking. I know Koundé is quite an expansive centre back, but if he were to step in for Pavard at right back, he's not going to be the one flying down the wing. That is obviously going to be Theo Hernandez, and he, you know,
does make up for that.
He does have licence to roam, you know, at least at Milan he does. I haven't watched him enough for France, but he is a player who can take on that responsibility. And, you know, fair enough in some ways, you know, if you want to then, you know, have that back 3 with quite a conservative right back filling in there, then that's clearly the way that he's going to go. But I just a bit sad for Klaus.
Yeah, I think maybe his thinking was, you know, with Kante and Pogba in midfield, he wanted some experienced heads at centre-back. And he has taken some risks with their fitness, really, because Varane's been out injured, Lucas Hernandez has been out for a month or so, Koundé's had his injury issues this year, and he's picked all 3 of them, which does feel like a bit of a risk, especially when you've got someone like...
Konate's had his injury issues as
well.
Konate,
of course, and it does feel like a bit of a risk when someone like William Saliba has been so good for Arsenal this year, and I know it's a big ask to get him to step instantly into one of the favourites, at centre-back into their side, but I just think they've left themselves a little short at right back. I do agree with you guys there, and their form hasn't been great. I mean, in international tournaments, it's been phenomenal. I think they've lost 3 of their last 22 games in international tournaments, but their form this year has been terrible. I think they've won 3 and 8. They've only won 1 of their last 6. They've lost both their games against Denmark this year as well, who were in their group. There is an Explain coming out on it on Sunday as well, which did have to be VO'd a couple of times because there's so many selection issues. But look forward to that. That will explain whether France are set for another disaster or whether we should all calm down a bit. Anyway, let's move on to another one suggested by Cecil Takin Ndifo, which is Kyogo Furuhashi. Now, he's actually made some really interesting calls, the Japanese head coach, who's called Hajime Murahashu. Anyway, he's left out Celtic duo Rio Hatate and Kyogo out of his squad. Surprisingly brought Daisen Maeda from Celtic as well, who is, out of the three, has been playing far the least in that Celtic squad. There are some really exciting talents. Japan are, I hate the phrase dark horses, but they are my dark horses for the tournament. They are in the same group as Germany and Spain, which is really, really difficult. But, you know, in Tomiyasu, Minamino, Daichi Kamada, Kairo Mitoma as well, who's playing really well for Brighton at the moment. Like, there is a lot of star quality in that side. Do have some ageing centre-backs that they're bringing. Yoshida, I think, is going, which does slightly concern me. But I think that is a slightly weird call to not bring Kyogo, especially when they brought a forward from Bochum, they brought one from Reims. Like, they've gone quite rogue with their forward selection. Yeah. Kyogo didn't have his best didn't bring his best form to the Champions League, missed a number of good opportunities, but still, his quality this year, he's shown once again in the league for Celtic that he is one of the best strikers outside of a European top 5 league.
I actually read an article on why he wasn't selected,
Nice.
and which means I know everything. But so it basically said that for Celtic, he works well because they have such high chance creation as a side that it's quite easy for him to slot away. Whereas for Japan, they're probably not going to have much of the ball, and his pressing game isn't what he's looking for. So he's gone for a conservative approach, as we were saying, with basically choosing players that he thinks are going to be working and hustling a lot more sort of off the ball, almost like the Okazaki used to do for club and country. So
Shout out Okazaki.
Yeah, what a legend. So yeah, I think that is one of the reasons that he's gone for it. But yeah, I am surprised to see that not even as an option off the bench. He's not been picked.
Surprising. Although maybe building your tactics around the idea of not having much possession when you're playing against Spain, one of the best ball keepers in the world, and Germany, maybe not too stupid in the end. Time will tell on that one. McCubs, let's move on to some of these other suggestions. Yeah. There's Mats Hummels down there, there's Duje Shaleta, there's Ricardo Pepi. Any of these particularly surprise you?
Yeah, I think they probably all should have gone, to be honest. Shaleta, okay, he's maybe not going to start. I think that, Vida and Lovren are still pretty dead certs in that Croatia side, aren't they? That, this Croatia team really is, in terms of those experienced heads, final tournament for a lot of them.
I looked at their squad and I was just not that excited.
But, never write them off because they are
Vida over Shaleta is mental.
Yeah, I think even if Shaleta isn't going to start, then I think just take him along.
Yeah.
Like he
hasn't ripped up trees at Southampton yet.
No, he hasn't, but at the same time, I think on the basis of the last 2 years, I just think he's deserving of a place. Are there 4 centre-backs better than him? I don't think so. Mats Hummels as well, I feel like he's had a lot of kind of advocacy on Twitter. People saying that he's been basically the best German centre-back this season. I've probably not seen enough of him at Dortmund compared to their other centre-backs elsewhere to make a judgment on that. But his experience in the dressing room would probably be pretty useful nonetheless. Considering they're taking Bella Kotchap as well, Klosterman,
Tilo Kehrer was the shock one for me.
But I mean,
I think he's been terrible this year.
But then who plays it? What right backs do they have to choose from? This is the thing. I think this is the problem with German.
Hoffman, I suppose, is a back 5. Yeah,
really,
he plays in the right wing back sometimes.
Yeah, a bit like Brazil. I think they're just a bit short in that area, aren't they? And yeah, I think they're going to be relying on their kind of star quality on the wings rather than necessarily flying fullbacks. Henry, were you gonna say something?
No. I was.
Sorry.
No, not at all. I was agreeing with you. I don't think Mats Hummels has I don't think it's a massive omission whatsoever, and I agree with you. They've got so many players that can sort of all muddle around up front that it doesn't really matter too much.
I mean, Rudiger, Schlotterbeck, Süle, Ginter's in there as well. There are a number of top German centre-backs, but have they as well left themselves a little bit short at full-back as well? It's interesting. David Raum, and they didn't bring Gosens as well. Robin Gosens, who was one of the stars of Euro 2020.
Yeah, that's true. That is a surprise, actually.
He's looked better recently for Inter.
Yeah, well, they still, it feels like DeMarco is really their starting left wing back at the moment. Henry, I know you wanted to talk about Ricardo Pepi. who was suggested by Cecil Takanimdifo, his second one of the episode, on Cecil.
Shout out Divock Origi. I do think he's unlucky not to go with the Belgian
squad. We're going over
squads.
this again.
No, you're disliking him. He's actually played a lot better for AC Milan recently, and if you look at some of the options they've got, I'm not holding out much hope for this Belgium side.
I was shocked when I saw their squad.
Their defence in particular, oh dear. But yes, for America, the USA, it's an interesting one because he's meant to be the big star. He didn't really work out at Augsburg. He's gone on loan to Groningen in the Netherlands, and he's done really well. 5 goals and 2 assists. But I don't think that's a big miss. I'm actually more shocked that Jordan Pefuk hasn't been selected for Union Berlin. He's only got 3 goals this season, but he's playing at a high level than a lot of the guys that they're taking. I think Morris is coming from the MLS. He's not really been firing loads. I've seen a lot of people upset about that. And they've picked another guy called Haji Wright, I believe, who he's having an amazing season for Antalyaspor in Turkey. He's the second top scorer in the Turkish Super League. Is that a higher level than what Pefuk's doing for the second best team in Germany right now? I don't think so. So I think Pefuk has a bit more physicality. They're basically running with Josh Sargent up front. That's their... look, I'm pleased for Josh Sargent. He's having a bit of a resurgence this year in the Championship, which it's hard to place that league amongst others, but it's still very competitive. So I think a lot of weight's been put on him, but I'm amazed that Pefuk hasn't gone just as like an alternative in attack. And but I mean, I'm willing to be pleasantly surprised by Wright and Morris, etc. Some of these players I haven't watched as much play football. But yeah, Pepe, considering he was meant to be the big star boy, I do feel slightly sorry for him.
Yeah, I think also Pepe was going to offer something. I think with Wright, I think they maybe wanted. I think, well, at least from what I was reading, they just wanted a kind of more conventional centre forward to be backup, whereas Pepe isn't really that. But I will say this of the US: if Pepe had gone, there would have been 4 teenagers in their squad.
Really?
They've got 3. So Gio Reyna's going, Yunus Musa, and who's the Mönchengladbach right back? Joe Scally is going as well. All 19 years old. So this is a really, I'm actually
14.
No, 4.
Oh,
They
right,
would have
that
taken
makes
4.
more sense.
But actually, when you look at, I've been kind of doing a kind of Wonder Kids script ahead of the World Cup. When you look through most squads, very rarely is there even a player under 21 in most squads, or at least there's maybe one 20-year-old or one 19-year-old. The US have a really high concentration of youngsters in there, so I'm actually really looking forward to seeing them, because obviously this is it's a big project for them in terms of seeing how they do at a major tournament, how this group of players does at a major tournament, because obviously their priority is 2026 when they're hosting. I'm really excited to see Yunus Musa. I think he impressed at least at the start of the season for Valencia in that midfield role. He's going to be starting alongside Adams and Weston McKennie most likely. I think the USA are definitely going to be a team to watch in that group. I think it's going to be them and Wales. I think it will be top tight in terms of getting out there.
I like it. Yeah, I saw. I feel a bit bad actually for being so critical of the Belgian squad, but it does feel like there's a lot of pressure on Lukaku up front, and he hasn't really been fit this season, obviously. I mean, Mertens, Batshuayi making the squad in 2022. Crazy. But yeah, Belgium and Croatia's squad just didn't really fill me with that much confidence for either of them. So we shall see what materialises. Guys, what do you think, or who do you think was the biggest omission from this World Cup, from their various squads all around the world? Tell us in the comments, and let's move on to our big match predictions. Okay, it's time to review our predictions from last week, and for the second week in a row, absolute shocker from all of us. I will just quickly review it. So
I think 2 weeks ago, actually, I did get 1 point.
You did. You did. Okay, so Roma versus Lazio. Henry went 2-0 to Roma. My Cubs went 2-1. I went 1-1. It finished 1-0 to Lazio. Wasn't a great game, that, at all. Not great from us either. No points for any of us. Juventus versus Inter. None of us saw Juve winning.
No.
2-0 as well. Great result that for Juve. So no points for us there. And then Real Betis versus Sevilla. I went 4-1 to Betis. My Cubs went 2-0. Henry went 3-0. Finished 1-1. So no points to any of us. But please do carry on watching this video, because the only way is up, really. And we can't be that bad again. But for 2 weeks in a row, me and Henry haven't scored a single point, which is really quite embarrassing. So the scores are as follows. I'm on 25, Henry's on 16, and my Cubs is on 11. But guys, we're going to start getting some right, and I think we could at least guarantee 1 point maybe from this first game we're about to
talk. Is this why you've done this?
Just get us back on form, because we are talking about Schalke versus Bayern Munich, Saturday, 5:30. First versus 18th. There are 22 points between them.
Why are we doing this then?
There was not very good games in other leagues except for Serie A this weekend.
Okay.
So yes, we need to talk about a Bundesliga game. We haven't talked about them for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
McCubs, Bayern Munich are really kicking into gear. Just before the World Cup, they've now hit the front of the Bundesliga and they're cruising. Yeah,
I don't think they're going to give up that lead now, are they? I mean, fair play to Union for keeping up with their form this long, but you know they were always going to drop off at some point. The numbers kind of suggested that. And Bayern are just, super strong. Obviously, unfortunate to see Mane forced off the other night, but
still no confirmation on whether he misses the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, L'Équipe was saying that he was going to miss it, but then I think Bayern themselves, like after the game, were like, it's not that serious. There might be more information by now. Really hope he does go, but I think at the moment it looks maybe less likely that he'll go than likely, which is really sad. I had Senegal down as my dark horses actually for the competition. I think
you're retracting that now?
Not necessarily. I think Mane's huge for them. Mane, there's no getting around that. They're still a quality team, but I think in terms of making a quarter final, they might struggle without Mane. I still think they'd be able to get out of the group without Mane, but I think, I was kind of tipping them to lead that group, even with the Netherlands in there. But anyway, I'll digress. He did go off in what was otherwise a very successful night for them, 6-1 against Werder Bremen. Just, completely dominated them. Gnabry got a hat-trick, Musiala on the score sheet again. And they created 5.7 XG as well, which is
the highest I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen that, to be honest. To score 6 and actually be good for 6 is pretty unbelievable. Police just going outside there. But
Standard.
But I mean, it's going to be a rout, isn't it? Schalke they were kind of promising start of the season. Did they win the other night?
They won their first game in ages.
Yeah, so so that's good for them, but I just can't see.
Scoreline?
4-0 Bayern.
4-0.
Yeah.
Henry, do you see anything better for the boys in blue?
No,
5-0.
5-0.
5-0.
Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Okay. I mean, they're onto their second manager of the season, former Bochum coach Thomas Reis. And that is their fifth manager since September 2020, fifth permanent manager. They've had interim managers in that time as well. Absolutely crazy. All their top goal scorers, who've got over one league goal, are over the age of 29. I think their top goal scorer is 34, Simon Terodde, which isn't great for even if they do go down. Yeah, exactly. All-time top goal scorer in the Bundesliga 2. But really struggling to match their opponents throughout at any level in the Bundesliga at the moment. You went 4-0, you went
5.
5. I think they might ease off just before the World Cup squad. Maybe just a quite a relaxed 3-0 stroll in the park. Right, let's move on to Monaco versus Marseille. This is far more evenly matched. Yep. Sunday, 7:45 p.m. 5th versus 4th. They're only separated by goal difference. Henry, what do your senses tell you about this one?
Not much in it between them. Monaco really kind of, after a bit of a hard start, they're really coming back into their season. They won one of their first 5 league games, and they've only lost one of their last 9, winning 7, which is pretty impressive. I like their forward line. Mbolo, Golovin, great players. Ben Yedder, he's got 5 goals again this season. Such an underrated player, really, isn't he, at the top level? So I'm quite intrigued to see where they're going to go. The Marseille have been a bit hit and miss recently. I thought they looked all right against Tottenham in that game. I think if Kolasinac scores that header at the end, then they're through. They're through, and it's just I think that's kind of been the story of the season for Igor Tudor. Slightly small margins, yeah. So on this one, I'm going to give it to Monaco. I just think, I'm going to go 2-1 Monaco. I think they're going to edge it. They're the team in form, and I just don't trust Marseille away from home sometimes.
Fair enough. I mean, Marseille have had a difficult schedule, McCubs, because they went Spurs, then they played Lyon, and now they've got Monaco.
Yeah, I mean, they beat Lyon as well on the weekend, so I think that was an important victory for them in terms of going up against a direct rival and winning. I think that their form over the last 5 weeks has been pretty poor, hasn't it? But they still do have a quality team. They've got players who can win games for them on their own. Having said that, I think Monaco have been in great form as well. So I was surprised you didn't go for your old 2-2. I'm going to go for 2-2.
Nice. Yeah. And Henry, remind me what you went for.
2-1.
Yeah.
2-1.
There you go, playing the percentages now.
I might go for a Marseille victory. Why not? Why not? I'm learning. Quick learner after no points in 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm going to go with a Marseille win. I think Monaco, both sides are quite streaky. I think it'll be tight. Not really sure which one will turn up, but I think Guendouzi actually is having a great season again in Ligue 1. He really does move through the gears so effectively in Ligue 1 midfields. I think he's great. I love watching him play. Slightly mad guy, but I'm going for him to have a big performance in a 2-1 win for Marseille away from home. The only thing with, I'm never that scared about backing an away side at Monaco because their stadium is just so dead. There's no one ever there. It's terrible. Anyway, speaking of a game which will be much better attended with a more vociferous crowd, Juventus versus Lazio, Sunday 7:45 p.m, 7th versus 3rd. There's 2 points between them as we film this, but crucially, guys, it could all change because Juve plays Verona away tonight, Thursday night. Lazio hosts Monza. You'd expect probably both sides to get the win there. McCubs, Juve's recent form in Serie A, Allegri, he's back.
He's back, baby. Just when we write him off, he is back with a bang. And Adrian Rabiot as well. Who knew? Who knew? The best player in Serie A. Joking aside, they have looked good. And I think something that I think we were all talking about at the start of the season was, how Allegri was kind of failing to unlock Filip Kostic. And in the last month, he has unlocked him. And Juve have been great as a result. Maybe I'm being a bit black and white with that. Juve have been a lot better. They're far from the best team in Italy, but they look like a team that you would probably back to make the Champions League spots. If they carry on with this kind of form. Kostic has been great. Obviously, Rabiot's been great. Moretti has been, I think we were talking about him last week, has been kind of one of their success stories. In some ways they've come into form at the wrong time because now you've got this break at the World Cup and a number of their players are going to be going to that, a number of their key players. But to be honest, with Serie A, I'm just loving the fact that all the challenging sides are taking points off each other and Napoli are just cruising away because obviously it'd be great to have a title race, but also it'd be great for Napoli to win the league. And there's no doubt that they are the clear favourites now, especially with kind of Milan not fully kicking into gear and Inter obviously taking a long time to kick into gear. I think that loss against Juve was kind of a little bit unfortunate. I think last week for Inter. I think
they have some good chances.
Yeah, I think they will. I think they will play themselves into the Champions League. But for this game, it's a tough one. I think I might back Juve just because of the home advantage. Lazio have been great this season, but I just think man for man, Juve are stronger. I'm going to go for. I think I might just go 1-0 Juve.
Okay, nice and simple. Henry, do you think Lazio can do it? They got a crucial win in the Rome derby last weekend with that Felipe Anderson goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I wrote off both these teams last week and they both were right. Both won. I actually think Lazio are the second best team in Serie A at the moment after Napoli. I think
got one of the best coaches.
Yeah, that performance to go away to Roma. Okay, they got a bit lucky. I think Roma hit the crossbar. What was it? They kind of showed that epic defence. I do think that 3-1 loss to Salernitana was just slightly freak result, all things considered. So they've shown they can win ugly as well as blow teams away, which we're more used to as Sarri football, so very particular. I love the fact that Felipe Anderson is so good again back at Lazio, quite clearly just a player that's found the club that's just perfect for him. He was there before West Ham. So yeah, I'm actually going to go, because I thought Inter Milan were better than Juventus for most of that game. It was only the last third that...
So Szczesny made some great saves.
Yeah, they turned it on. I thought Inter really, a few times now, they need to start taking their chances. I'll go 1-0 Lazio.
Okay, I really don't know where to go with this, to be honest. Serie A is so difficult to predict this year. And I think in our predictor league, it's the one that's we're just in a graveyard of poor predictions right now. But Lazio do have Immobile back, I think. I think he declared himself fit to go on the bench for the Rome derby. And I don't think Sarri wanted him to in the end. They've got Milinkovic-Savic back from suspension, He's been superb this year. Can't wait to see him at the World Cup with Serbia, with Mitrovic, your boy Mitrovic as well. That could be a really effective duo. Vlahovic, of course, will feature in this game as well. So I'm excited to watch Serbia. Did anyone back Lazio? Who did you back Lazio?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you go for a draw?
Doogie, just make your prediction based on what you think is going to happen in the game. Don't worry about us.
But I don't want to copy what you've already said. And I can't
we'll let you know if you've copied us.
You said 2-2.
I said 1-0 to Juve.
I might go...
And
I might continue this Juve run. Allegri's back. And I'm going to say it's going to finish 1-0 to Juve in a scrappy game just before the World Cup starts. There we have it, guys.
That's what I was. You did copy me on that one, but that's fine. We'll share the points.
Fine, we'll keep it. You told me to go for what I really believe in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, that is our school predictions, our big match predictions for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed Continental Club for this week. Let us know who you guys thought was the notable omissions from all the World Cup squads and all those predictions, as I said, in the comments down below. Cubs, you've already pushed to an Explain coming out this weekend. Is there anything else that you'd like to
France,
recommend?
Keep an eye out as well for the Wonder Kids 10 Wonder Kids to watch at the World Cup. All players 20 years or below. Jerson Bennett has made it for Costa Rica into that 10. He's a really exciting talent. Has been great for Costa Rica, despite I think he's only had like sub minutes, hasn't he, for Sunderland?
But the assist to get them to the World Cup, I think.
Oh, nice, yeah. So he's in there, and I'm not sure what else is going out, but just watch all the good stuff.
He also scored a great goal against Watford, which I'm sure everyone remembers. Henry, anything?
You know what, I think it's so poetic that we started by talking about Jerson Bennett and have finished talking about him. Why else would I want to spoil that? But yeah, if not, go check out Continental Club Extra. You and Zach this week.
Yes, we were talking about the toughest Champions League draws. It was just the two of us actually, because Henry's train broke down or some rubbish excuse like that. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you later. Goodbye.